Hi Kim, alright, so here's your past life spread. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at where we are, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with relationships and feelings involved, a second important day, the death, and the lesson learned, and we'll get hints of time throughout. So, first we're going to start off in Asia, and so your job is going to be to make connections where you can, and I'm going to help along the way. So I'm just going to relay to you the images and impressions I get. And so when it comes to Asia, obviously Asia is big, but here I'm feeling pulled towards more of a Japanese aspect, so we're going to go to Japan with this. And I mean, Asia, obviously, like, I've gotten Russia even with the Asia card, and I've gotten Thailand, all of these places, but what's standing out is Japan, and it feels like the culture of Japan. And I'm seeing a woman, and I feel like we're looking at the life of a woman, and this woman she's dressed in fine clothing, but it's the period where they wear those long dresses, and the women even, it's almost like, I hate to say geisha, but it's like that's the only thing coming to mind, but not that you are one, but just that look, that old-fashioned look. And I feel like we're not in modern times right now. I feel like we're looking at very traditional times, and hopefully I can get more from that later on. So we're looking at a woman in traditional times of Japan, where I feel like we're looking at like a dynasty who is in charge. There's a dynasty in charge. I feel like this person is actually like has to do with the dynasty, like working for or close to higher ups, aristocracy, whatever it may be. Okay, and so like the images I'm getting is like a woman it's like a garden. It's like this woman is very well off, or from a family that is well off. And we're getting the card that is the healer card. So what's interesting is, now focusing on this, we're actually looking at a person who exhibits special abilities or gifts that is not desired by her family, but is desired by the ones that can utilize the gift. So in your current life, you might feel like, one, you don't like being taken advantage of. I mean, who does? But you might be triggered when you feel like others are taking advantage of you in whatever way it might be, whether it's hospitality or just simply bothering you for too much advice, whatever it is. You could be someone that's sensitive to that. You can also be someone who feels like the black sheep in their family. You could also feel like you deserve more, if that makes sense. Almost like, not a sense of entitlement, but that you work hard and so you should be further along from that aspect, like of what you're working on. You want to be further along, if that makes sense. Almost like, and then this message is coming through about enjoying the journey and not about the end result. And so I'm just gonna, I pepper in whatever comes to mind, so keep that in mind as well. Now the healer card too, I'm trying to see what it is that you do with the healings, but I feel like there's something having to do with, it's almost like you have, Reiki is like energy work. It's almost like you have this natural gift with energy work, but you hide it by telling people that it's actually like psychology, like whatever it is at the time, where you're able to make an excuse for it, where you could still use it, but people they won't call you a witch, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind as well. And that can also connect with you in your current life as someone who, if you do have abilities or gifts, you may have gone through a time, or still are going through a time, where you feel like you have to hide them, or you can't express yourself freely regarding them. Maybe you haven't found the right people yet. Finding your tribe, that might be important for you, so that you're able to express yourself more, because by expressing yourself more and practicing what you want to practice, you're going to get better and better at it. And by hiding it, you're only putting up obstacles, put it that way, if that speaks to you. So let's go to this first important day. So here we have the conquered or welcome card, which means there are newcomers, and they're either being welcomed or they're coming to take over. The relationship card is the friendship card, and the feelings are, oh, the horror. And what this feels like is, it feels like people are coming in from another land, and they're coming in with peace flags, but I feel like they end up sabotaging and taking over whoever's in charge. And so I don't know what time period this is. I would really like to know, but basically Google when in Japan, if the dynasty, even in I don't want to say it's like ancient times, but it's really far back. It's not modern at all, and there was a takeover. And I feel like they came in as friends, almost like under disguise, and made everyone feel comfortable, and then they just kind of swept through the palace or wherever the higher ups are, and they just kind of took over in one fell swoop. I feel like it was like a kind of like an ambush, except that everyone knew they were there and they thought they were friends, if that makes sense. So that's the feeling I'm getting here, and I feel like there's a lot of people in the service of the prior like aristocracy or the prior dynasty, the royalty, whoever it was. I feel like there's a lot of people that were either killed or what's the word when they export people to places, and you know, like in Russia they used to put people in Siberia, and it's oh well, I forgot the word, but basically I feel like they send people away or they kill people in order to kind of like, what's it called, like take more control of the regime, you know, like stupid stuff like, oh, they'll bring in their own chefs, so the chefs that are already there have to leave, you know, like that kind of thing. And so I feel like there's a lot of fear on your end that you're going to be one of these people that is let go, so to speak, or taken away or killed off, whatever it is, because, you know, they want people that are loyal to them, not loyal to the previous dynasty. But you have a reputation that has gone around, and whether you feel like, whether you know it or not, there are people that are aware of your abilities, even though you try to hide it in a certain way that makes it sound reasonable or logical or more grounded. There are people that are aware of your abilities, and the ones that come in are made aware of it, and they keep you on. And there's these feelings like you're safe. There's a feeling of like, whew, safety. So in your current life, you might come across certain themes or situations where it's going to be you versus other people, in a sense. Like, let's say you're working at a job and you know that even though they say it's not, it's competitive. So you might feel like in your life at some point, or currently still, you might feel like you've had to compete, almost like life might be a competition. That might come up a lot for you, like life, it might feel like a competition sometimes. And it would stem from this because you're keenly aware that the only reason you're still here is because you were better than the others, as far as the healers go, or the medical team or whatever, because people were removed from whoever, you know, helped the prior the ruler, his doctor, let's say his right hand doctor, his main physician, like that kind of person was let go. You were kept on because you weren't the right hand man or the right hand healer, so to speak. You were more subtle, like your presence is more subtle, but it's still reputable. So that could also be who you are in your current life, is someone who has great gifts. And it doesn't even have to be intuitive. It can be just like someone like you're really good at your job. You could be an educator and be really good at it. It's just that you might be someone who is subtle, like subtly in the background, but people don't mess with you because you're stable too. Like you are a necessary component to a team. So you might find that in your current life, that you are a necessary component to a team. Like you've like just made the cut, and you find that that's been a recurring thing in your life, where you've just made the cut every time, because you're still, your soul memory, you're still a necessary component to a team. So keep that in mind as well. And I feel like that's being told to you in a sense, to almost recognize it and to give yourself a pat on the back and some credit for where credit is due. Almost like you need to understand what you do give to others, and understand what people get from you, that you are in whatever way helpful, useful, worthy, valuable, whatever that is, you need to understand and recognize your gifts where they are and not brush them aside if you find that you're someone that does brush them aside because you might be modest or whatever it is. Because I feel like this person here is very modest, almost like wanting to be in the background, like you, which may connect with you in your current life as someone that wants to be behind the camera instead of in front of the camera, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind. As well, because of how subtle it was and that you were kind of behind the scenes here in your current life, it can also be a connection on the flip side. It can always be opposite, where you might be someone that really loves being the center of attention or in front of the camera, so to speak, because you didn't experience it here, and our souls want to experience everything. So keep that in mind as well. Now, the next important day, this is, I think, the third time today that this graduation card has come up, and so it doesn't always mean schooling. It can mean a graduation emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever you're working on. You could be graduating, leveling up in a sense. And the feeling here is soul group and then joy. And what's really interesting is that you're finding that with this new regime in place, these new people, they also brought in new basically people that you're going to be working with, and you find that a lot of the people that you start working with are part of your soul group. These are people, like, if they hadn't invaded or hadn't taken over or hadn't come in, you would never have met them. So you were meant to meet them because they trigger something in you. And I feel like what we're seeing here is you, in a sense, owning up to what you really are capable of. I feel like this is a day where it's almost like you're brought in to treat or heal the head guy, like the head guy, the ruler, whoever's in charge. You're brought in because up till then you've only been helping with his family, his friends around the palace, whatever. Because I feel like you are a component in the palace or in the main area where these people live. And I feel like on this day you're really able to be, this day you're recognized for everything that you bring, and that is your incredible intuitive healing abilities. And I feel like you end up curing the guy in charge of something that should not be cured, almost like a feeling of like eking the bad energy out of him, like almost like you removed it completely, and it was almost miraculous. So I feel like on this day, not only you are kind of performing that kind of intuitive miracle, but people are witnessing it for the first time. You're allowing people to witness it because there have to be others near you because of him, like bodyguards, whatever it is. So I feel like this is the first day when you're able to show who you really are and what you're capable of, and this is a huge growth for your soul, even though in a sense it may have felt like you had no choice. But that honestly doesn't come into play here. It's more like what's to focus on is the fact that you stepped outside of your box of comfort, your zone of comfort, and you performed perfectly, amazingly. And because of this, I feel like you leveled up, not only with your own soul, but also in the physical facilities. Like, you became someone more recognized for what you were able to do, even though I feel like there's a feeling of a little bit of like basically I feel like there are people who don't appreciate or accept your gifts because it might be looked or seen as something more scary or something to be feared of. But the guy in charge has basically like elevated your status, put it that way. So it's almost like you're moving up in class, as well as your own soul is being expanded and growing because you chose to take a risk and you chose to step outside of your comfort zone. And I feel like that's important for you to hear right now, because I feel like if you want to get to where you need to be, if there's something you want out of life, you need to take that first step out of your comfort zone. And that could be as simple as going on a trip by yourself, or just handling something by yourself that you would otherwise have others do, or speaking or expressing yourself in a way that you wouldn't before. Whatever it is, if you take that step outside of your comfort zone, you're going to see progress and growth and expansion in ways you would not have seen before. So it's almost like if you take that 1 inch out of your comfort zone, you'll be met with 3 times fold the amount of rewards. So keep that in mind as well if that speaks to you. This also talks about possibly a transitioning period that you're finding yourself in right now. Transitioning in that can mean so many ways. It can mean spiritually, but it can also mean you could be transitioning jobs or homes or thought processes or beliefs or core beliefs, or things can be shifting for you internally or externally as well. So keep that in mind and just know it's all good. It's all good, and you should go for it. If you're feeling like it's a little scary, that's okay. So just keep that in mind, but also listen to your intuition, listen to your gut. There's a difference between something being a little scary and going for it, or something being completely dreaded and you need to pay attention to your alarm system inside, so to speak. So keep that in mind as well. All right, so the death card. Unfortunately, here we have the murder card, and it doesn't always mean murder. I mean, we've had even suicides, this will come up, but in this instance, it is a murder, and I feel like we're seeing you killed because of the fear that your gifts actually end up invoking in a lot of people. And I don't feel like this was like a public killing, like where they dragged you out in the streets and killed you. I feel like this is like a bit of an assassination, like it's intended and you're the target and it goes through that way, but I feel like it was like a quiet killing, and it was made known that it was because of that. So in a sense, if Japan ever had like witch trials, or they ever thought there were witches, whatever their word is for that, I think there's a large population that considered your gifts to be not of the highest good, even though they didn't know any better. It was more fear-based. So in your current life, I mean, I feel like it was like at nighttime, sleeping wise. So in your current life, you could be someone who doesn't sleep well. You can have insomnia because this was done in your sleep, so you can be paranoid at nighttime. You could be paranoid about your security systems of your house, like just having a security system or having a big dog or something like that, that you subconsciously you get these things because there's a weird fear that you can't quite place. So that would stem from this kind of death. And so now we come to your lesson, and this is the working hard. The lesson where you're working hard. And I feel like what we're looking at as far as the hard work lesson, it's really about what it comes to is about being free with your expression of being authentically yourself. I know, it's like, how did I get that from this? But this really ties into the fact that you were a hard worker at what you did, and also the fact that you really didn't have to work hard for what you did as well. So what you did very well, but it also was kind of a natural gift coming to you. So it's like in your current life, what the message would be that you don't have to struggle as much as you may already do in order to achieve what you want to get. Rather, there's something about you realizing that you have natural abilities and gifts in certain things, and to tap into those natural gifts that you have in order to achieve what you want to achieve. And things it might not always seem like it goes together very well. Like you may have a natural ability with people, and then you might be having work a job where you're in an office and you don't maybe deal with a lot of people. But when it comes to when you do deal with those people, you would do a very good job at it because of your natural gift in working with people. You see, so there are gifts that you have, and you just have to be aware of them and not deny them. And then you can utilize them in different areas of your life, even if they don't feel or seem connected at first. It will flow more smoothly if you are coming from a place in yourself where you're acknowledging and using what gifts you already have. And it really comes down to, I feel like it comes down to telling you to start recognizing what your gifts are and not putting them aside as just personality traits, or that's natural, I've always been that way. Well, you've been that way, or it's natural because it's something that you have in you that can be utilized for your advantage. And so it's almost like the work hard card. You don't have to work hard in the sense that you might think of as hard work. What you might think of as hard work doesn't have to be that way. Certain obstacles you might be coming across, you might not have to even go through any of that if you kind of like dig deep and pull out and tap into this energy of knowing yourself and knowing what you can offer and what you're capable of, and putting that towards the area where you're seeing any struggle or any kind of disrupt of the flow. Because life does not have to be a struggle. We're taught that we are supposed to be struggling and fighting against the current in order to get these things that we want. And it doesn't have to be that way. It should be a flow of things. And how do you get a flow? It's by understanding who you are and expressing who you are and being as authentic to yourself as possible. And that's when you're going to see the flow happen. All right? So I hope that it speaks to you. I hope you're able to find connections, and I hope you enjoyed your past life. And thanks for letting me read you.